What if I could prove that the voice you call me is not who you really are, and that the moment you see this clearly, your entire reality begins to reorganize itself? Stay with that for a second, because if you've ever felt strangely awake but still trapped, as if you can sense something deeper moving beneath your life, while your days keep repeating the same emotional patterns, then this moment is not random. You didn't find this video by accident. And what you're about to hear may feel unsettling at first, not because it's false, but because it touches something you felt for a long time and never had words for. Most people believe they are their thoughts, their memories, their personality, their habits, their story. But in quantum consciousness, those are not the source of who you are. They are the interface, a survival model, a compression layer the brain uses to reduce uncertainty, predict outcomes, and keep the system stable inside a world that feels solid, logical, and controllable. The mind is brilliant at one thing: keeping you alive. It was never designed to reveal the full truth of reality. And here's where things get uncomfortable. That interface does not evolve forever. When it becomes outdated, it doesn't gently upgrade. It destabilizes. It collapses. It resets. And when that happens from the inside, it doesn't feel spiritual or beautiful. It feels like anxiety without a clear cause, restlessness you can't explain, a quiet dissatisfaction that follows you no matter what you fix on the surface. Same fears, different faces, same relationships, different names, same pain, dressed in a new costume. You start asking yourself why nothing truly changes, even when you try, even when you read the books, even when you work on yourself, even when you understand more than the people around you. And almost no one tells you this part. That experience is not failure, it's not weakness, and it's not something broken in you. It's a signal from the quantum field itself, a pressure wave from a deeper layer of reality responding to a shift in your vibration. In quantum mechanics, observation doesn't just measure reality, it participates in it. The observer effect shows that consciousness is not passive. It actively shapes how possibilities collapse into experience, and your subconscious mind, the part of you operating below language and logic, is constantly interacting with that field, broadcasting frequency through emotion, expectation, and perception long before your rational mind catches up. This is why spiritual awakening rarely feels peaceful at the beginning. It feels disorienting, lonely, sometimes even frightening, because what's dissolving isn't your life, it's your outdated identity. The version of you that was built to survive a lower frequency environment is being challenged by a higher one, and the subconscious mind resists this not because it's evil, but because it's efficient. It learned how to keep you safe, not how to let you see beyond the surface of reality. So when people ask, why does everything fall apart right before a breakthrough, they're brushing up against a hidden truth. In quantum systems, order does not emerge from stability. It emerges from instability, from fluctuation, from the moment an old pattern can no longer maintain coherence. That's when a new configuration becomes possible. If you've been noticing synchronicities, repeating numbers, strange timing, emotional waves that come out of nowhere, or a quiet pull toward deeper meaning, these are not fantasies. They are feedback loops from a hidden reality responding to changes in your internal state. Your frequency is shifting. Your vibration is no longer matching the story you've been living. And the field always responds to mismatch before the mind understands why. What makes this moment both dangerous and powerful is that most people numb these signals. They distract themselves. They label it stress. They suppress it. And in doing so, they reset the same loop again and again. But a few feel something different. A quiet knowing that behind the discomfort there is information, not motivation, not positivity. Information encoded directly into experience. And once you begin to see how the subconscious mind interfaces with the quantum field, how identity acts as a filter rather than a source, and how awakening is not about becoming someone new but remembering what was always there beneath the interface, you'll start to notice a subtle sign, almost invisible, that appears right before reality begins to shift in a way that cannot be reversed. Before we go deeper, comment just one word that describes how you've been feeling lately. Stuck, lost, numb, anxious, awakening. I read the first hundreds, and I'll use the most repeated ones in the next video. And once that subtle sign appears, the mind tries to rush ahead, but this is where clarity matters, because here is the revelation that hurts a little. Your brain was never built to show you the truth of reality. It was built to keep you alive. From a biological perspective, accuracy comes second to prediction. The brain constantly runs forecasts, building a model of the world and a model of you inside it, all to reduce surprise, minimize error, and maintain control. In neuroscience, this is called the predictive brain. In quantum consciousness, it's the interface between infinite possibility and limited perception. That interface is what most people mistake for the self. The ego is not evil, and it's not an enemy. It's a tool, a map, and a map is useful only as long as it matches the territory. When reality shifts and the map stays the same, pressure builds. Anxiety appears without a clear reason. Patterns repeat. You feel stuck in a loop you can't think your way out of. Same emotional reactions, same outcomes, even as the surface of life changes. This is not punishment. It's feedback from the hidden reality beneath your awareness. As your vibration changes, your old model starts losing coherence. The subconscious mind, designed for efficiency, tries to recycle familiar patterns because they feel predictable, but the quantum field doesn't respond to comfort. It responds to frequency, and when your frequency no longer matches the identity you've been using, a consciousness shift begins. That shift rarely feels peaceful at first. It feels like friction, like life tightening, like something asking you to see instead of repeat. If this feels precise, slow down and stay present. This channel exists to create a space where perception can expand without pressure, where curiosity replaces fear. If you feel it, engage naturally. A comment, a like, or choosing to subscribe isn't about metrics. It's about strengthening a shared field of awareness. And what comes next builds directly on this. Because once you see that the you've been protecting is a model, not the source, the question stops being why reality feels heavy and becomes what happens when that model finally begins to reset. When that model begins to reset, it often feels like the universe itself is breaking you. But what's actually happening is repetition, not punishment. You repeat what hurt you because the system is trying to dominate what once dominated you. The subconscious mind does this automatically. It replays familiar emotional environments not because they're good, but because they're known. From the inside, it feels like fate. From the outside, it looks like bad luck. From the level of quantum consciousness, it's a loop asking for awareness. This is how the loop works. An unresolved experience leaves an energetic imprint. That imprint becomes frequency. Frequency shapes perception. Perception filters reality. And reality mirrors the filter back to you through the quantum field. Same pattern, different form. Same wound, new relationship. Same pressure, new job. You call it destiny, but most of the time it's the subconscious mind running the same script, trying to predict the outcome before it happens so it can feel safe. The hidden reality is that resistance strengthens the loop. The more you fight the pattern without seeing it, the more life amplifies it, not out of cruelty, but clarity. Reality pushes until perception changes. That push can feel like loss, confusion, or emotional exhaustion, but underneath it is information. The system is asking you to notice what you've been reliving instead of resolving. This is why spiritual awakening is rarely comfortable. A consciousness shift destabilizes the familiar identity. Old coping strategies stop working. Old explanations feel hollow. And the ego interprets this as danger, when in fact it's expansion. Your energy is outgrowing the container it learned to survive in. In a moment, I'm going to give you a 10-second test. 2 questions. If you answer yes to both, you're not failing at life. You're in a reset. And if this description is landing with uncomfortable accuracy, leave a signal in the comments. Just write, I'm in the loop, not as a label, but as recognition. This channel exists to turn recognition into shared awareness. When you comment like or subscribe, you're not just supporting a video, you're strengthening a field of collective perception. And what comes next will show you how that loop begins to loosen the moment it's truly seen. Because right after awareness comes a subtle shift that most people miss entirely. Imagine for a moment that there is an invisible scanner moving through your life, constantly monitoring your reactions, your feelings, and your thoughts. Every time you ignore a signal, an intuitive pull, an uncomfortable sensation, a truth you're avoiding, the system doesn't punish you. It doesn't get loud or dramatic. It sends you a small reset, a tiny shift, a micro-adjustment. It might seem insignificant at first. You'll experience the same lesson with a different person, in a different situation, with a new set of circumstances. It might be a relationship that mirrors the same conflict, a job that echoes the same frustrations, or a situation that brings up the same pain, in a slightly different form. But here's the real shock. You don't need to change everything about your life. You don't need to run away from every situation that feels uncomfortable. What you need to change is the observer, the way you are perceiving it, the way you are experiencing it. That's where the true transformation begins. This isn't about forcing the universe to reshape itself around your comfort zone. It's about changing the way you see, think, and react. It's about loosening the grip on your old identity, because when you do, you'll notice that your world begins to respond to you differently. Now, the idea of erasing the mind might sound a bit extreme, but think of it as dissolving the false control, the part of you that believes it must control everything in order to survive. The ego doesn't want to let go, because it believes that if it does, it will lose its grip on reality. But in reality, it's only the ego that's holding you back from seeing things clearly. When the identity relaxes, your brain networks change their patterns. It's like switching from static to a clear channel. You begin to feel yourself, your true self, in a way that is deeper than the I you've known. This isn't pseudoscience. This is how the subconscious mind interacts with the quantum field. When we shift our internal state, the entire external reality begins to reorganize itself in response. It's a subtle, powerful process that begins with the observer's perception. When that perception shifts, everything around you starts to reflect that change. If this resonates with you, I want you to pause and think about your own life. What is the reset you're facing right now? What is the lesson you're being asked to learn again, but with a different face? Comment, guide me, if you want me to turn this experiment into a 7-minute guided practice in the next video. By commenting, you're not just engaging with the content. You're participating in the process of transformation. This channel is built on shared energy, and your participation strengthens that field. In the next video, we'll explore how to break free from these cycles of repetition, how to shift the observer's mind to make lasting changes, and how to unlock the potential of the quantum field to work for you, not against you. The journey is just beginning, and you're not alone, because the secret was never about becoming someone else. It was about stopping the habit of calling you something that was only an old program running on repetition. The mind resists this idea because identity feels like safety, and safety feels like survival. But survival is not the same as truth, and when your consciousness expands beyond the limits of that identity, the experience feels like breaking only because the frame can no longer contain what you've grown into. You are not collapsing because you are weak. You are destabilizing because your inner frequency has surpassed the version of you that was built to cope, predict, and control. This is what a real consciousness shift looks like from the inside. It isn't fireworks or instant peace. It's a subtle loosening. Less urgency to explain yourself, less attachment to old narratives, a quiet sense that the world hasn't changed, but your perception has. And perception is everything. When the ego softens, the quantum field doesn't suddenly become kind or cruel. It becomes clear. The hidden reality you once experienced as resistance begins to feel readable, almost transparent. You stop interpreting every challenge as a threat and start recognizing patterns as information. And clarity creates a phenomenon that changes everything. Synchronicity. Not as superstition, not as wishful thinking, but as alignment. Moments that feel precisely timed. Conversations that arrive at the exact point you're ready to hear them. Opportunities that appear only after you release the need to force outcomes. These are not rewards. They are signals that your vibration and perception are no longer fighting each other. When frequency stabilizes, the field responds with feedback instead of friction. This is why awakening is not about escaping life, but about seeing it without distortion. The subconscious mind stops recycling the same defensive loops, and the energy that was once trapped in repetition becomes available for awareness. You begin to feel guided without being controlled, curious without being lost. Even uncertainty takes on a different quality, less threatening, more spacious. This is expansion of consciousness in its most grounded form. There's an ethical core to this work that matters deeply. No one can force this shift. No video, no teacher, no technique can do it for you. This space exists only to reflect, to offer language where there was confusion, and to create resonance where there was isolation. If something here is landing, it's because a part of you was already ready to see. That readiness doesn't announce itself loudly. It feels like recognition, like remembering something you didn't know you forgot. In the next video, we go further into this clarity. I'm going to show you why nothing is a coincidence, how the universe actually communicates through signs, and the specific signals most people overlook until the moment has passed. For now, stay with what you're noticing. And if this video described your inner experience, leave a trace in the comments. You can write, I awaken, I see beyond, or I'm expanding. Or, if you're ready, share in one sentence the pattern you've been repeating. Subscribe if you want to follow this sequence fully, because this is not a standalone idea. It's a progression, loop, reset, signs, and consider sharing this with someone you care about who feels trapped in a cycle. Sometimes awareness is the interruption that changes everything. If you made it this far, you already know. This wasn't entertainment, it was a mirror. Now I want to read you. Comment the word that hit you the hardest today. Reset, loop, break, or awakening. And subscribe, because the next video is the missing piece. Nothing is a coincidence. The signs the universe uses to guide you. You won't just watch it. You'll recognize yourself.